What's up? This is Rebel Radio.
What up, what up? This is DJ Newmark.
This is Peanut Butter Wolf.
It's your boy. It's okay.
Keep checking out Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
This is Rebel Radio.
We're in the place right here. Rebel Radio is going down.
Would you say Rebel Radio?
Oh, wait. Let's do it again.
Rebel Radio.
What's up, Rebels? Welcome back to Rebel Radio, the weekly show where I bring you the rebels who are shaping our culture. I'm Josh Levine, and as I promised before, we're testing out a new format of shorter episodes, kind of digging into single topics. So my guest today with me is Dennis White, aka Latroit, aka Static Revenger. If you listen to this show, you definitely know him. He's been on. He was our first guest. I think he did our 2-year anniversary show. He was on earlier this year with a short episode, and now we're back with another short episode. This time, we're not really digging into his story. We're just kind of debating the issue of selling out. It's not really a debate because we kind of agree on everything. So, spoiler alert. But we're talking about what it means to sell out, how that definition has changed. I think it's super relevant for what artists and really every business is going through today, as far as balancing, short-term money versus the longer-term effects that it has on your brand and why people love you in the first place. So I hope you'll enjoy it. Send us a note. Let me know what you think. If you don't like it, too bad. And now let's get into it with Dennis White. There's a sneaker came out last week that is a Jordan collaboration with American Express.
Okay.
And that bothered me a lot. It was Don C, who's one of Kanye's guys from Chicago, who created this sneaker. And, for me, I couldn't get past the fact that American Express had something to do with it. And what do I care about American Express? I have some cards, I use it, but in my mind,
is the sneaker out or the?
Yeah, it's out, or it was announced anyway.
Yeah,
it's a Jordan 5. It's who cares? But it brought up for me the kind of idea of what happened to counterculture? How did we get to live in a world where that is acceptable to anybody? And that, I like to think that in the world that I come from, everybody gets laughed out of the room with a move like that.
You know what?
You like the shoe, you want a pair.
No, I don't want. I can't wear Air Jordans. They look ridiculous on me. But if I didn't know everything you just said, and you just showed me these sneakers, I'd think, yeah, all right, word.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah,
the shoes are fine. Cool. I have nothing, and as you can see, you're looking at it. Amex has nothing to do with the shoe.
Yeah, and I don't want to like the shoe now, but I still do. So it's going to be interesting to see what the vote in the sneaker community is going to be on it.
Well, I wonder. So
they're just going to get it because they think it's cool. Again, let's take it to Ruben. Ruben, take a look at those sneakers. Ruben's our 22-year-old engineer here.
I don't like them.
You don't like them. All right, well, then you're not going to get them. But if you did like them, is it enough for you that that's a collab with American Express that if you did like them, would it matter to you one way or the other that it was an American Express collab? If you liked them, would you get them, or would you be turned off by the fact that that was the collaboration?
I probably wouldn't mind. But it's kind of weird that a creative company do
Yeah, I get it. So, as a guy who comes from underground music, dance music, hip-hop, I had a great conversation with Junior Sanchez about how those two were born together and diverged apart and some of the social issues that drove that.
I should listen to that one.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
But my point is, at one point, club music, dance music was counterculture.
Yeah.
And now it's mainstream music, and now... But more importantly, I think we're just in a world where I don't know what counterculture means anymore, and I don't think there is. We're of an age where, in any area of life, being labeled a sellout was probably the worst thing you could be called, and was maybe a kiss of death for your career. Mm-hmm. And I feel like all of that is a relic of the past.
I agree.
All right, we're done.
Yeah.
What happened?
Couple things. To the point that you made that the major label infrastructure financially is never going to be good news to an artist, unless there's a couple things that happen out of that that are maybe unlikely. One of them would be synchronization to TV, film, and ads. Now, 20 years ago, that was very taboo if you were an artist. And I mean, my dumbass, I remember vividly when you and I were interacting with Red Bull at the Red Bull Music Academy. I was kind of friendly with those guys at that time. This is a 20-year ago story, and I'd gone out there for that. And they had approached me and asked me if I wanted to be involved in the academy, which was great and it was really cool, and Red Bull was amazing, and then they opened a studio. But even back then I had just had happy people, and it wasn't usually a thing that you would do, and so I didn't really pay it that much attention, and I wish I would have paid way more attention. A company called Zinc, which was one of the very first companies that were aiming at synchronization for artists, representing artists for TV and film. I slept on that, and they were just about first in the game, and I slept on that because of that kind of thinking. There were two artists that kind of were like, fuck it. Crystal Method was one, and Moby was the other. And by that time, I mean, they both were suffering chimes of like, sellouts. They were both suffering chimes of that because they had both come through underground.
Sure.
But the world got over that pretty quickly, number one. Number two, if you think, I think it's the right of the artist to say like, hey, yeah, you know what? I'm cool with this being in this movie scene. Because these dollars, and that's where the shift in thinking started to happen, and everything was counterculture until it wasn't. Rock, punk, hip hop, techno, dance music. It all was until it wasn't. At some point, I think what happens is that fans. Sorry to keep interrupting because I'm the least informed person in this conversation, right? But at some point, like. The creative director at an ad agency was a punk rocker, and he did care about that shit.
Yeah.
And he likes that music, and he wants those old fuckers to be successful now because they're not making it in record royalties and they're not touring anymore. And he's like, hey, you know what? I can get these guys $500,000 for this car commercial, and it makes me and everybody else feel cool about ourselves. We don't want to blow our brains out by using some shitty catalog music that's just basically ripping these guys off. So I think a lot of, I don't know, do those two things kind of make sense going together?
I do. I agree. I think, first of all, you bring up a great point. Moby made headlines. It was the first album. His album Play was the first album to license every song to a commercial. I don't know if that's happened since, but that was a big deal at the time. I also think that was different because the album was already done, right? So the commercialization of that record had nothing to do with the creation of it.
Yeah, that's true of Crystal Method and everything else we're talking about.
Okay, it's not true of someone collaborating with a credit card company to make a sneaker.
Well, you're right about that. No, that's whack. That's whack.
Okay,
it's whack for you and I though.
Well, yeah, like I said, no one cares.
We're just two grumpy old men, yelling at trains as they roll by.
But I get your point, and I think it's understandable. I think what I struggle with a little bit is is just how everyone came to accept that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I get the old punk rocker who gets a corporate job and wants to help the bands. Like that scenario makes perfect sense. There used to be a counterbalance, right? There used to be a punk rock community that said, hey, fuck that. We're not going to accept that kind of commercialism creeping into our thing that we built. Yeah. And I feel like, part of like the reason that you and I have careers is because like the generation before us went through that and then quote unquote sold out, right? Like the, classic rock, the hippies became the corporate people. And then there was this new underground, that came from disco, blah, blah, blah. Right. And And the youth culture has always been the one to say, you know, we're not accepting what the kind of mainstream is doing. And so for me, what feels different now, and maybe it's just because I'm old and I'm out of it, but I don't see it, that there's a youth culture that's saying, you know, that's not okay with that blatant commercialism.
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't think Coachella is less good now because it has pop stars on the main stages
Okay.
for headlining than it was 15 years ago when it was not doing that, and it would have very intentionally made sure that it did not do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these guys got a lot that they got to pay for now, and that's where the dollars are going to come in from, and you don't like it, fucking ignore it and go to the underground tent.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I never gave a shit. I don't think I ever did.
Okay. I'm not. I think maybe a lot of people never gave a shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. I don't think I ever gave a shit.
There was we had a thing when I was at Herb Magazine. There was a moment where Ford came out with the Focus and decided they were going to use Detroit techno to market the Focus.
Yeah,
And they licensed the Model 500 song, song Night Drive, for the commercial, and they went to sponsor something. I don't remember what.
It was the Detroit Electronic Music Festival.
Yeah,
it was
first year.
Movement.
The first year, and there was a backlash.
Yeah, tremendous backlash.
Right, and that's kind of like what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that was gross.
What was?
Not the backlash, the Ford thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was there. I was at that festival.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I played that year, but I was certainly around for it. And, yeah, that they made our music, underground techno, they made it one big, massive, gross Ford commercial. And I don't mean just the commercial. I mean, you showed up. This was when brands had no concept or nuance of how to do it the way you guys did at Scion when you were inventing that. Mm-hmm. And Red Bull's always been great at it, but it was before they had any sense of nuance, and you were just walking into some gross, overproduced Ford thing. Yeah, that was an example of not getting it right, and it was really gross. But if it had been done right, I think, and maybe the card not. Maybe a more appropriate car, like what you guys were doing at Scion with Rebel and Herb and Toyota, was a good example of, you know, you do it right with the right product and everything's fine, because you guys really famously got really credible underground artists across all forms of music, mm-hmm. and not just music, but all forms of art.
Right.
Like, you really engage. There's no way that the level of people that you got in terms of credibility would have done any of that stuff. And you weren't throwing $1 million checks at everybody. It was just you were doing some kind of cool shit.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like a commercial product using, you know, music and art, but one's doing it right and one's not doing it right, appropriate to the audience anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. So if it's done wrong, it's fucking gross. Fuck those people.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's anyone left to say it's gross now. Like, there was last year, you won't know this, but last year there was a Propel Water music festival where they had, like, workout people on stage with the bands. Like, this whole thing. I didn't go. It sounded incredibly cheesy. It was like an aerobics, you know, if you remember. Like, I don't know. But they had it. You know, I think it was their second year or something, whatever. Right now, what's the one, James, we just saw? Is it Land Rover?
Yeah, 4x4.
Land Rover's got this music festival.
In January.
It just happened. Yeah. So I didn't see how it went. It didn't seem, from what I saw, it didn't seem cheesy. It seemed, you know, it was just on paper, on the website or whatever. It looked okay, but it was also very blatant, very kind of heavy-handed. Now, Land Rover is a brand that a lot of people think is cool, and so both artists and fans are maybe more okay with that.
I really can't wait to see the Propel Water performances with bands on stage and people
we should look
doing
that
calisthenics.
Up. It looked horrible.
That sounds fantastic.
But that's the thing. Like a bunch of artists signed up and agreed to do that.
Hey, I respect that they would have tried it because Jason does this. Jason Bentley plays these Daybreaker gigs sometimes. Yeah. And I'm into the notion of where music meets fitness. I'm into it. That's cool. Yeah. I've been to, I don't know what they were called, and I don't know if they're doing them anymore, but instead of going to a rave and doing drugs and drinking all this shit, you would sign up for a 5K run, and they had these lighted tracks and music everywhere and a DJ playing, and I loved that shit. I loved it. That was great. I don't know what happened to that. But, with any new idea where there's not a precedent for what's going to work and what isn't, I respect if this is happening if it happened the way it's happening in my brain, the propel water, puts entertainment up there and have some people doing some calisthenics.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, no, I respect that. What do you know? What the hell do they know? I'm a fan of the space and the idea, I guess, in general is what I'm saying. I'd like to see that. What happened to those things where they were running? I love those.
They probably still do it. I don't know. You're not paying attention.
Sure I am. I run and I produce and, it seems like I would know. Don't leave the house much, though, and I never check the internet, so.
What are you working on next?
Right now we're going to do a song with Ashley Morgan, who's a talented actress and model and voiceover artist. A song called You Got That Thing That I Like. She's going to be in here in 10 minutes.
Nice.
We just finished submitting for a few songs for China. They're looking, one of the songs I did with Charles, and we've done this big epic song called We're in This Together that there are some companies looking for a unifying song for China at this moment in time through the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So that's a thing that we're working on. I'm packing to go to the Galapagos Islands tomorrow, where I'm going to look at a bunch of nature and stuff, but I'm going to record a bunch of animals.
Oh, that's cool.
Do a bunch of sound recording down there.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And then a song called Like This just came out with Position Music and Floyd Wonder. And thank you, Austin Kramer and Spotify, for throwing that up on Friday Crate Diggers last week. That's out. A remix with Mako on Ultra Music coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm excited about that. Some TV thing I'm not thinking of.
I'm exhausted already.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So that's a couple of things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Where does everybody find all that stuff?
On the internet.
Okay, everyone go to the internet.
Yeah. I don't know, man. How does anybody find anything? I'd probably talk about it on my website, which is latroit.com, I imagine.
Yeah.
Universal Music has opened a new sync division. Sync departments at major labels usually have to do with finding placements for the catalog of the label.
Yeah.
And they started I think I can say this, they started a new department, a new sync department, where they're creating catalog kind of from outside people like me, interacting with the catalog of the label that's aimed at those types of placements. And we've been talking for a little while, and I think we're going to do something. That seems pretty exciting to me, and that's a good convergence of activity for me.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, we'll be listening. Thanks again for doing this. I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure, Josh. It's always great to do these things. I appreciate it.
Always my pleasure.
Yeah, and I haven't seen you since yesterday, so it's been nice to catch up.
And everyone should check out Le Radio.
No.
Is that still?
No. What are we calling it? Everybody should check out the first 2 finished versions of House of Detroit Radio.
House of
Ashley
Detroit.
Morgan, who's coming in to do this voice. She was my co-host in those.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I think we squeaked out 2 episodes in 6 months.
You go.
Pretty proud of that.
Hey, it's a semi-annual, or it's a quarterly. There's a big market for quarterly radio
Dance
shows.
Music's premier and only quarterly podcast. Well, now that I have it branded, now that I have it branded as something, I feel better about this.
So yeah, it's good. You got 90 days to get the next one up.
Thank you, Josh Levine. Thanks, James, Ruben, Rebel Radio. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, that was Dennis White on Rebel Radio. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Like I said, we may be trying out some of these shorter form episodes more in the future, so I'd love to hear what you think about it. You can hit us on Twitter, Facebook, really wherever you like. It's at Rebel Radio Net. We have video of a lot of our episodes going up on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Rebel Radio Net. And most importantly, come back next week for more Rebel Radio.